Welcome to the Grit City Podcast. I am Justin.
I'm Broken.
I'm Scott.
And Jeff's back there dealing with the live stream. Jeff, is it working?
It's working.
Nice. All right. Excellent. Thank you for joining us. If you want more information about what we do, you can go to gritcitypodcast.com. Follow us on all of the social media. I know on Twitter it's at Grit City. It's Grit City Podcast on both Facebook and Instagram, right?
There's underscore
There's
there.
an underscore there.
Oh, son of an ass.
Grit underscore city.
Just throw that one in there to make it confusing.
I'll figure it out at some point in our lives.
I think that was actually my fault.
I think you did all of the other ones right. I think that was the only one I
That was the only one we could get that way.
Oh, that might
It would have been way too many difficult things.
And also, if you want to support us, do it via Patreon, patreon.com/Grit City Podcast. Much like our bacon savior, Jason over at Castle Security and Protection.
I saw him this morning.
Did you? What was he doing this morning?
He was driving his family around in his weird little electric car.
He's got an electric car.
Yeah, he does. It's a
Oh,
leaf.
judgy on that one right there.
Hey, I got a.
You got an electric bicycle, dude.
That's different
How is that different?
because I'm fat.
Okay.
He is
so,
not fat.
So that is supposed to work it out? Like, that doesn't...
I didn't plan this. Simmer down.
You're not ready for this one.
No, I haven't had a beer yet.
If you do want to support us, we really would appreciate it. It'll help us get some new equipment because I think the board's falling apart. Patreon.com/Grit City Podcast. If you know of anybody who might be interesting or fun in the Tacoma area, in the surrounding areas, South Sound and all, send us an email, info@gritcitypodcast.com. Or if you are that interesting person, you can do so as well.
We do like to see your emails.
Yeah. Sometimes we get feedback, too. That's kind of nice.
It is kind of nice.
No, keep your feedback to yourself.
It's just the good stuff. We just want the good stuff.
Yeah,
That's all.
exactly. We do have 3 guests with us today, and I would love for each of them to introduce themselves. Let's start with Melinda. Melinda, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
And so what organization are you with?
Well, I am with Citizen Corps Council of Pierce County and the Medical Reserve Corps of Pierce County, and I am a CERT member.
Oh, perfect. Next to you is Stephanie. And Stephanie, you are with the MRC as well, correct?
I am. I'm between both of these individuals. I also am on the Citizen Corps, peripheral to Marv here, and then I'm the director of the Pierce County Medical Reserve Corps.
And then next to you is Marv. How you doing, Marv?
Hello, Marv. Yeah, I'm Marv.
Hi, Marv.
How are you doing this morning, Marv?
I'm doing great.
And so how are you involved with this Citizen Corps Council?
I'm the chairman for the board of directors for Citizens Corps Council.
Nice.
I've been with them several years, and before that, I was with FEMA for a long time.
Wow, okay. And so Citizen Corps Council of Pierce County, people can find more information about it at CCC-PC.org.
That's correct.
How was it? It was founded from FEMA, correct?
Yeah, it's sponsored by FEMA
Okay.
and DHS, and we're in the government chain, and that makes it nice when we deal with the government. Mm-hmm. And one of our primary functions is to help coordinate non-government agencies to local DEMs, but also is in preparing the community and individuals for disasters with our various CERT teams, which are community response teams, and Medical Reserve Corps.
And how did from all of you guys, how did the Citizen Corps Council of Pierce County, and overall, how did they come into being?
Well, okay.
Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah,
right.
one of us,
So
okay.
back in 2002, after the 9/11, the government started a USA Freedom Council, and under that, Citizen Corps was the head for volunteer organizations. They had go ahead and chime in anytime, you guys. There's a Medical Reserve Corps. There's Neighborhood Watch. There's
Police Corps.
the
CERT,
VIP. I think it's called VIPs.
volunteer and policing.
Safe
Ah,
Streets.
okay.
Volunteer police. There's
We're acronym people.
I was going to say, anytime you guys say an acronym, if you
Sure.
could just
Yeah.
explain what it is, because I don't know for sure.
yeah.
So.
There's lots. Besides, let's see.
So you
Think
kind
of
of,
any others?
you guys kind of,
Safe Streets, and there's a few
Oh, yeah,
others,
okay.
and there's, and it's up to each local Citizens Corps Council what they can best support.
Okay.
And so, and as we keep going on, we keep developing other, I shouldn't say others, but taking on more responsibilities, if you will. It all depends kind of what you need for your area.
And so with Pierce County, which are the ones that you are focusing mainly on then at this point?
Well, that would be the Medical Reserve Corps and CERT. And also we're working on supporting the 4 DEMs. Before we used to be
What's a DEM?
Department of Emergency Management.
Okay.
Ah, okay.
Like Pierce County, Tacoma, Puyallup, and Lakewood, they used to have handshake agreements. But due to some recent developments, they've decided to make us a separate entity.
Oh.
Yeah. And so now we're all have those functions doing them instead of the Pierce County DEM.
Ah, okay. So you guys are are you the go-to then at this point for all of that stuff?
We're the go-to for non-government agencies.
Okay. Wow. And so with the what is the MRC? Since you guys are experts with that, what is that specifically?
I defer to Stephanie.
I knew
She's
you were
been
gonna do
doing
that.
it for a
Yeah.
long time.
7 years specifically. So
Wow.
Plenty, yeah. So the Medical Reserve Corps is a nonprofit medical emergency response organization of volunteers. So we are a branch of the Citizen Corps Council. We're our own organization, but we do the clinical medical services side. So if there was any type of situation that we would need to respond with nurses and doctors and therapists and mental health, we would do that. That's our role.
Interesting. So is this just an overall sort of anybody can use this, or is this in
Yeah.
emergency situations only?
Actually, so to Marv's point, we're responsive to Pierce County and all 4 cities, so we can operate under any of those jurisdictions. But we all do our unit's actually very, very active. So each county or city may have their own MRC. In this county, we're the only operating MRC, but we're very active. So we do a ton of community work that's
Wow,
both
okay.
networking and training to develop us in the event of an emergency.
So okay, yeah, go ahead.
So you may see like there's going to be the bike ride that goes to Portland.
Seattle to
Oh
Portland.
yeah, the STP. Yeah.
You'll see a tent, one of our little tents there with MRC volunteers.
Have any of you guys actually done the Seattle Portland? Gone on the bike and gone down there?
Not after watching what happens at that first stop.
So yeah, so what goes on with all of that? Because
Sure.
yeah.
Well, we're the first major stop actually. Pierce County from Seattle is the first major first aid stop.
Okay.
So we've seen some pretty volunteers like to come do this stuff because they see some pretty good road rash.
It's
We've
like a
had some
NASCAR event or
shoulders,
something.
Head trauma. Yeah. So we end up triaging those to the hospitals, but we'll take care of them right there if we can. So
With something like the STP, do you? I mean, this is just a random question on this one, but like, how many people go through that? Like, how many people are you dealing with at this point who could potentially have these major injuries?
So I don't know about the bike ride, a couple thousand people for
Yeah.
sure. At the first aid tent, we have a self-serve. We see over 400 people there.
Wow.
And then we usually see 50 to 70 in more of our triage where the nurses and the docs are. And those are going to be the road rash, the stuff that we need to clean up or maybe triage. And then if they need to go to the hospital, we'll make that assessment. So we see about.
We're not the only ones, right? There's also they also have ambulances and things around.
Yep. So first responders are around,
Right.
and then actually all the way down the I-5 corridor, most of the first aid tents are all operated by Medical Reserve Corps in each county.
Wow. Okay.
So Thurston,
All right.
Chehalis.
So I'm picturing all this is. So let's say the Taste of Tacoma
Sure.
is an event. There's always a medical tent at things like that. So that's one of the things that you guys would be a part of.
We could, if we were asked to do it, we would just look at the time. And the reason we like to do these are both for recruitment, meeting the community, being out there, but also it's a training opportunity for our network, both our nurses and our docs and our non-medical folks. One, to get to know each other so that in an emergency they're not new to each other, but also so that they're training and learning protocols and procedures. So we use those events to train.
Okay.
And that's actually a lot of what Citizen Corps does as
So
well.
what you guys probably don't know about me is I'm obviously a very active marathon runner. But so we went to the Fiesta 5K Olay, and there was 3 different little booths. One of them had just some firemen there with their little bag, and then there was a table. This is King County, so it's
Sure.
probably not you guys. But they had a little table, and they had 2 people that were there, and they were offering up, and it was just like the medical tent had just like the little, looked like a first aid symbol just on a little tent, and they were just sitting there helping people with Band-Aids and that kind of stuff. So it's a very similar.
It can be, yep. We range from Band-Aids to...
But if somebody needed that kind of service,
Yep.
they would contact you guys and say, hey, we've got 3,000 fat men running around. We need a cardiac doctor, or we need an additional assistance beyond what you are required to have.
Yep,
Like,
and
you
we'll,
have
and we'll
to
temper
have-
that with first responders as well, right? So we want to try to maybe mitigate if we can do a Band-Aid that, you know, a first responder doesn't have to do a Band-Aid. We can help with that. So,
Yeah. So they just need to contact MRC, talk to someone there, and they can. We do this for a lot of things.
Yep.
We don't just do Band-Aid stations.
Okay. So what are some of the other things that you guys do as well then?
Well, I can do the list, but she can rattle it off
Keep doing
faster.
So again, as a training model, we do immunizations. We do pediatric and adult immunizations. So we do over 1,500 kids a year, flu, and then we do about 300 to 400 adults every year, and we serve the homeless population.
Now, is this something where you will like go to like a community center and set up a day?
Exactly.
Oh, okay, cool, perfect.
So we'll do school-based events, but we'll also, for the adults, we serve the shelters in the area, and then we'll also have a mobile unit. So this is actually another training model under the health department lens. So we'll support the health department in mass vaccination if there was ever an emergency that would require that.
Oh, wow.
So we use that as a training model as well, but we also then flu vaccinations get out into the community.
One of the things that just came to mind was the measles outbreak that we just had.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to assume that you had a lot going on when that happened.
Actually, that's really funny. That was my pivot. If I needed to go there, yeah. So we for the first time we actually had a state MRC response down to our southern partners down there, and we sent Pierce County specifically sent over 20 people.
Wow.
But we actually sent over 35 from 5 other MRCs as well. So Clark County, King, Thurston, Spokane, Pierce.
And where did all this
Snohomish.
originate in Washington? Was it down in like Vancouver area?
It was down south, but,
Okay.
but as a public health, we're a network, and so we support each other, and MRC is a supplemental resource to that. So we actually sent nurses down to their county. And this is a prime example of where volunteers can be such an asset. These are nursing volunteers that either may have had time off or retired, and they could go down and supplement support and bring that information back to us. And that's another thing that they're trained on, again, that we can do.
Now, if people were interested in volunteering, could they just go to CCC-PC.org and get information to do so?
Yeah, there's a link there.
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome.
We have a link.
But the best way to do it is to contact Pierce County Medical Reserve Corps directly, and we'll send you out a application, or you can come in and get one.
And there's one on the website as well, piercecountymrc.org.
Okay, perfect. So piercecountymrc.org. And we'll be putting that in all of our links and stuff like that, and right onto the podcast page, so people can go right to it.
Okay.
And so you're talking about registered nurses, other medical professionals that can help out. But like, if you're not one of those people and you don't have that specific training, how can you assist and help out with that?
Well, we use both. We use medical, and we use non-medical.
Okay.
I used to be medical. I'm not any longer, so I do the logistics part.
Oh, okay.
So I would do the paperwork, I'd do the setup. I might,
glamorous job.
help get them
Administration.
organized, whatever they need.
So there's definitely places for people for administrative work, or all the way down just to like
yes.
gophers who just want to help out. Is there an age requirement? Can like teens who want to help out do so as well?
Sure, we'll do 16 to 18, and there's some events and things that they can do, and I know they have hours they have to do for school, so we can help with that in general. But 18 and over is the best, just because we do serve vulnerable populations, and we want to make sure we're putting those individuals in a good situation. So. Yeah.
And how did you guys get started with it? I mean, Stephanie, you've been here for 7 years.
Yes.
How did you decide that you wanted to be a part of this?
I was told no. I moved here specifically for a job, and MRC was one of my responsibilities.
Okay.
And so I think this is a good conversation, kind of back to Citizen Corps was established right after 9/11. So were we. So from a national level, this all happened very quickly after 9/11, because what the government realized was that there was not a credentialing system to make sure that volunteers really were who they say, right? We don't want. We don't want. Are you really a doctor? Are you really a nurse? What's that? So we were established in mid 2000s, And so for our organization, and I believe Citizen Corps was roughly around then as well.
Yep.
And we became a nonprofit in around 2012, 2011. And the reason we went to a nonprofit is just because you don't have to. We sit under the health department and have that affiliation as well. But it also allows us to do more community work, funding, things like that.
Does that kind of cut down on the red tape then a little bit at that point, or is there still just a bunch of red tape? Whenever I hear government, I just imagine red tape and the checks and balances.
It goes both ways, right?
Okay.
So working under the government gives us a lot of flexibility in one direction, and then being a nonprofit gives us flexibility in a totally different direction.
Oh, nice.
We're also a free clinic. So being a nonprofit allowed us to be a free clinic, where under the government we wouldn't necessarily been able to do that. It just wouldn't have made sense.
Okay, yeah.
So it just totally depends on the situation, but we have the flexibility to kind of pivot in the medical world the way we need to. But most traditional MRCs are within the health department or government systems, and we still have that relationship. So we plan to maintain that for a long time.
Melinda, how did you get started with all of this? Because you said you started in the medical field and then have gone not into the medical side of it.
I was in nursing, and I've always volunteered. I was with the Red Cross in the 90s, and I was with the schools when the kids were in school, it's not like I wanted to get a job to get paid. I have a husband that takes care of me, so I just felt like it was
duty to the community. It seems really
good use of my time. And the other thing, if I look back at my beginning, I got a master's in health systems leadership from USF, and my cover letter was I wanted to do emergency management, emergency setup, emergency care for people who were in that state. And hence, I was I'm a friend of the health departments.
So I got her. And I made her a board member.
And they got me in there.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
So it really feels like you have a strong sense of community. Like all three of you really do at this point, because it seems to one of those things is that we don't necessarily people just don't necessarily talk to each other that much in community. And it seems like in order to be able to do so and deal with these emergency situations, like when we talked with Josh at CRT originally before this, it was one of those things where it's like, you kind of need to go out and talk to your neighbors so you can establish stuff like this. But with what you're doing at this point is also just making sure that everyone is like on the up and up to make sure, hey, like you said, yes, they are the doctors. They are the people that you can trust in these emergency situations. Marv, how did you get started with all of this?
Boy, somehow I wound up working for FEMA and going out on disasters, both as a public affairs officer and as a photographer. And most of the disasters I would be both, which is a unique dual role in that I had to get out in the field to really where everything was. So I really got to communicate with people and actually help coordinate some efforts. On Katrina, I actually was the first person that was brought in on Katrina when it was hit in Florida. My plane was landing at Orlando. I didn't know this. Usually I come in a week or two afterwards. And I look out the window and I realize that's a hurricane out there, and it's over Miami. And I'm going, holy crap. I'm right on top of this one. And so they had to hold me up because they knew I would go down there right in the middle of it. So they held me up and released me finally about 5 hours later. And that was an experience.
I would have to imagine so. I mean, being down there as one of the first people, we've seen the destruction that it did to New Orleans. We've seen the pictures, but it's not going to really show what it is as opposed to being there in person.
Yeah, I tried many times, especially in Ninth Ward, to really capture one photograph. And the closest I came was to do a 360 and stitch them together.
Wow.
And then I had this long, I think it's about a 5 foot high by 5 foot mural, if you would, spread out. That came close. But still, there was nothing like just standing there. And I've got another photograph I took. We were out with search and rescue in Ninth Ward, and we had to have security with us. Matter of fact, I've got a picture of a armored personnel carrier coming down the street. That was one of our protections in the area. Finally, at noon, they said, okay, don't need security anymore. And I go, oh, this is interesting.
Are you sure?
Yeah, and I'm out with one of the search and rescue teams, and they're doing their thing. And, you know, it takes them a while. And, all right, I'm getting bored. I'm going to walk down the street. And, you know, I was very nervous. I rounded this one corner, and I just froze in my tracks. It looked like something straight out of the Twilight Zone.
Really?
Cars all over the place, on top of one another, a layer of dust over everything. And there was not a sound. Not a bird, not a dog, any sound at all. It was completely dead, like I was out in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
And I took a picture. I raised my camera, and I took a picture of what I saw. And it still didn't really do the job because you couldn't hear anything.
Yeah.
But so anyway, that really got me out into, and a lot of times I would come across people that everybody else missed in my jobs. Well, it was not really my job to communicate with them. It was my job to do PR stuff and photography.
Mm-hmm.
But part of that was when I came across them, we stopped and we did what we could and get them registered, whatever. So that kind of transgressed into when I decided, okay, you know, this is okay, but you know what?
You want a little more
I'm getting a little bit
involvement.
older, you
Yeah,
know, some of
yeah,
the stuff
yeah,
is getting
yeah.
a little bit dangerous.
Gosh, yeah.
And there were some situations that I thought, okay. I did take fire once, you know.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I was down in an area, totally secured. No, it was not totally secured. It was about, I think, 60 miles down and 20 miles wide in I think, Parrish County or Plaquemine. I can't remember. But anyway, I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden I hear shots. They're, you know.
Whizzing over your head, just...
Yeah, they were coming around me, and I'm going, okay, in time to leave.
Yeah, and at that point, you just get the heck out of Dodge, and you're just like,
Well,
time
we
to
were
go.
well, I knew I was in an area. I mean, every once we wind up in areas where people don't like the government, period. And we're down there to help. Hey, we're not going to fight with them. Fine.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah,
don't want
yeah.
us here. We'll leave. But that wasn't scary. But there were some other things.
Getting shot at wasn't scary. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, like
scary.
it's like Lauren Tacoma and down on the southeast side, and we hear it at our house. We hear quote unquote fireworks from the people celebrating whatever sports victory, because I'm pretty sure that they're not fireworks, but that's what I tell my wife.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I mean, like I'm not like necessarily cool with all that.
Yeah, you never know. But no, it was good. I had a chance to do some other things too. But I decided to come home, and there were some family issues that I needed. We needed a couple of my girls needed some help, and I decided, you know, come here. And then I got involved with Citizens Corps, and just been that insight and the experience I had before, I think has really kind of come full circle and been able to help us now, especially with us departing from actually having our leader be Pierce County. There's a bunch of other things that also happened in expanding on the FEMA and DHS level.
Okay.
So we're undertaking a bunch of things right now to fully encompass this new stuff to help citizens that want to help out in disasters. We give them a way to do that. And usually it's through the CERT program or the MRC program.
And so this is the training that people can go and attend, and
Yes.
all these different sorts of, I guess, yeah, those classes and seminars and such.
Yes,
And
yes.
how frequently are you guys doing these things? And I'm assuming they're all going to be available on the Citizens Core Council of Pierce County, the events calendar and stuff like that.
Yes, the CERT training goes on. There's civil CERT trainers in Pierce County. And they do anywhere from, depends which one it is. I'm going to say anywhere, I think from 1 to 4 is the average, but I think some do up to 6. But there is a variety of programs going on through the different trainers.
Okay, so just each
Yeah,
one's
and
if
what you
just one
do, if,
want to get
yeah,
into.
and if you go on our website, you're going to see a portal on there of, okay, where do you live, which community, and then you're going to be able to see what's available in your community.
Do you like I know I was just looking up online that we have like I think in the Washington and Oregon area like 6 major active volcanoes.
This is what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So I just want to know what everybody's scariest emergency thing is,
and
right?
and that's mine, because where we used to live down Brogan's old place, my wife, again, back to her, she was freaking out about the fact that it's kind of almost essentially part of the valley into the Lahar for Rainier. And it was just like, if there's an eruption, well, first off, considering how close we are, I think we're all screwed anyway. But then with the Lahar added to that, do you have a scary one, Scott?
You know what's been scaring me lately?
This is going to be good.
Is asteroids, right? So this summer, I want to get on this lady from, I think it's called B612 Foundation. And they monitor the sky. They're a volunteer organization that monitors the sky for asteroids. Apparently, nobody really does that. That's why you only hear about it like a couple months out.
Well,
They're
that
like,
was what the lady
something's
from Los Alamos we had on was saying that it's like nobody's looking up and enough to catch anything, so we're just going to get blindsided
right.
anyway.
So when I started reading about how much they actually watch and like who does it,
like 12% of the sky can be monitored or something.
nobody's looking, right?
Yeah.
So you're just expecting like asteroid,
Dude,
like
they just
Armageddon?
had one blow up like a month ago. Did you guys see that in the news?
I think I saw that. We don't currently do planning for asteroids, but maybe
Well, it
it's a
sounds like that's the thing
consideration.
that Scott can volunteer for. He could take up. He can lead, he can be the spaceman.
Asteroid team leader.
You guys need to start. I'm just saying.
So what are the ones that you guys do focus on though? Like
Training-wise?
Yeah, training wise.
So we'll focus under the government system. They'll allow volunteers to come if you're a member with us. You can come to pretty much any of the government-based trainings. So that can be incident command training. We provide stop the bleed training. So we are doing that right now.
Stop the bleed training?
Yeah. So this is trauma based. So it will teach you how to use tourniquets and packed wounds. And this is best practices we know from the military, but in any kind of active shooter event or any other major event where you're seeing trauma and mass bleeding, we're teaching citizens and volunteers. So you don't have to be a medical person to learn how to use a tourniquet and the right way to use a tourniquet and then packing the wound.
That's so important. I think if we had more human beings that were just trained and even just first aid. Yep. Like it's just not a thing. Like they should make that like a requirement.
Well, one of my favorite things is every year they do the big free CPR training.
Right. Yep.
And and that lasts for like 2 years or something like along those lines, isn't it? Is that correct?
Couple years.
Couple years.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's one of those things that people can go to. And most of the time they will have free ones as well. So I mean that's even at the most basic level, like CPR and defibrillator training, the heart restarters.
Oh, if your friend's choking, you should learn how to save him as well.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone learn the Heimlich. So just in case if somebody who may be on this
I feel
podcast chokes. So this is literally what happened. Brogan, he loves bacon. He loves bacon so much. Would you like to tell the story?
I hate you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got to tell everyone about
So
it.
I went camping.
Yes.
And I took a bunch of the people from my business. They didn't never been camping. They wanted to go camping. I'm all right. I don't know how to do that. Get up early. The birds are chirping. They're all still asleep in their little beds. So I start making breakfast, and I cook up the biggest pile of bacon. And they've kind of all gotten up and they're milling around, smelling bacon. Everybody's happy. And I reach over and I'm like, man, that's good-looking bacon. I grab a piece of bacon and I fold it in half, and I bite, chew, swallow. That part where the bend was didn't break in half, and it opened in my esophagus. So it was stuck in there.
Brogan choking on meat.
And one of my guys that's there, he's my employee.
Jason from Kesselsec Pro.
Jason from Kesselsec Pro. He'll save your life.
He's the bacon savior.
He walks over to me, calm as a cucumber. I'm beet red, turning purple. He turns his head sideways. He goes, "Are you choking?" I go, and he just real calm. Just gave me the Heimlich maneuver, and we just launched that piece of bacon halfway across the campsite. So it's important to know how to do that because you might be able to save my life.
Here you are today.
More people. I want to eat. My kids were so cute. They were like, "Are you going to be mad at bacon?" You can't stay mad at bacon.
You can't stay mad at bacon.
They really thought that I would never eat bacon again.
You just never know when your trainings are going to come in handy.
It's absolutely true.
I'd never choked on anything before like that, ever.
You should,
that's a horrific feeling.
Learn how to do it yourself, too.
Well, I knew I was looking around going, I'm going to have to jump on the corner of that picnic table.
Oh, yeah, like on the sides of the table or a chair or something like that to be able to do that.
Yeah. Theoretically, that's supposed to work. More importantly, I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm trying to swallow, making it worse. I'm like, okay.
And I mean,
I'm
at that point,
die.
at that point when he started to Heimlich you, were already like blacking out, right? I mean,
it was getting scary. Yeah.
Jeez. Damn.
Yeah.
See, this is why I don't like to go camping.
But that's one reason why between Medical Reserve Corps and CERT, that we give, basic medical training and what to do. And the CERT, you asked a question earlier, what types. Well, we give a general course, okay, that you can use that for anything. You could be going along a car accident or somebody on the street.
There's a base level, just like a basic CERT course.
There's some very basic level, and I even forget what some of the three things are, but one of them is stop the bleeding.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very important. And of course, when somebody's not breathing, you've got to clear the airway and some other procedures to take, just like CPR. Are you choking? Can you breathe?
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
scared.
yeah.
He was in the Marines. He's like, believe me, if this had gotten worse, I can give you a trachea. If not, I've got a tool in my bag that we can shove down your throat. It'll fix it. It'll be okay. I'm like,
that's the advanced course.
yeah. I'm like, okay. Yeah.
But if he whips out his hunting knife,
Yeah, well, that's not the one. I don't want that to happen to me. And I also took a training course from the mountaineering club here.
Oh,
they
good.
actually take people up and take you snowshoeing and teach you.
They're very good.
Like, all right, so you fell in a tree well. There's like two things you can do before you die.
Oh, yes.
Or here's how you use a ice axe. There's actually a video of it on YouTube in case anybody doesn't believe I did this. Yeah, I look ridiculous. They're teaching you how to how to fall, how to what happens. Here's an avalanche. Here's your best way to survive.
How come this is the first time we're hearing about this?
Because I don't want you guys to look at the video.
Oh, we're gonna find it out. Come on. Yeah. So mountaineering got it out. All right.
Yeah,
cool.
but no, it's really. I mean, all those little things. Like, yeah, sure. Like you never think. Well, ice axes are pretty cool. They have a lot of ways that they can save your life. There's like 4 different positions.
A lot of ways they can kill you too if you use them wrong.
Yeah, they're sharp.
Yeah.
Don't hit yourself in the thigh with one.
Wow. Yeah. Maybe go to that training.
Yeah, but I mean, is that kind of the SWAT? Like, what's the weirdest CERT course you guys have?
The weirdest one.
Weirdest.
Oh, I don't
The
know
most
if I can
unorthodox.
say
Maybe
we've got
don't call it weird,
a weird one, because I want to say we keep it pretty basic and effective in what people can, you really concentrate on what they can remember.
Mm-hmm.
And
what they
basic
do.
things, stop the bleeding, etc.
So, what as our community can we do? Like, can we do to help this? Because in my head, I'm making up like a little project. I'm like, okay, so it'd be really popular for you guys? Hooking up with like one of those goofy, it's silly and kind of kitschy, but like those big outdoor zombie apocalypse people.
Oh, I was just thinking zombie apocalypse.
I know it seems silly, but I mean they've got thousands and thousands of people, and if you guys went at it from an actual perspective, okay, you just got bit by a rabid human being.
What are you gonna
do?
Public health crisis, yeah.
Well, we have a couple of things. One, and I'm trying to remember it because I think Pierce County has changed the name of the program, but one is PC Net.
Correct, yep.
And PC Net
County.
is a community-based, like an HOV, Homeowners Association.
Oh, yeah.
HOA. And that works real good. Matter of fact, I'd like to talk a little bit about Fox Island.
Okay, yeah.
This is exactly what Fox Island, to me, Fox Island's done the ideal situation. Okay, Fox Island, most of you are familiar with it. It's got one bridge going across it, and that bridge, I don't know what I can legally say about that bridge, but it's been in the newspaper.
I grew up in Gig Harbor.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah,
okay,
know.
They do not expect that bridge to survive even a little earthquake.
Oh my gosh! So basically, at that point, if there is even the smallest of earthquakes that are
I
centered
shouldn't
around
say
there,
survive. I shouldn't say survive. That's not true. They expect not to be able to use that bridge.
yes.
Because one of the first things that's going to happen is going to happen with the Tacoma Narrows Bridge as well. They're going to be shut down until they can be inspected.
Oh, that's a good point.
Now, where do you think Tacoma Narrows Bridge is, and where do you think Fox Island Bridge is?
On the priority list, yeah.
Well, you look at the
both
Purdy
are
Bridge,
way
too.
down at the bottom because it's going to be the overpass and the I-5 corridor.
Oh yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah, okay, so we have to get realistic in our thinking, even if you're in just a regular community, but especially if you're someplace like Fox Island. Now, they went around, and they're members of PEPC, which is Peninsula Emergency Preparedness Coalition, which I also used to be chairman for.
Oh, okay,
at one point. That was actually the first. Well, actually, I've been doing that one for a long time. But anyway, they're really the community-based thing. They're just a local community. They've taken the whole peninsula. And their thing was getting organized. Well, to me, Fox Island is the epitome of that the whole combination of what they were attempting to do. They know everybody, almost everybody on the island. They know all the doctors. They know all the nurses. And they've got all their key people that they would need in a disaster. They already have them spotted out and in the program so that the whole Fox Island community can come together.
Yeah, and
Yeah, Fox Island's pretty cool.
I remember Josh from CERT talking about that, where it's like, just like go and meet your neighbors, like on your block,
Yes.
and see which one is
Yes.
a medical professional, or which one has the big truck, or any of those, like top to bottom, just knowing your neighbors.
Well,
map,
Fox
map
Island,
your neighbor.
Yeah.
Map your neighborhood.
Fox Island's a great example anyway, because in Pierce County, they have the lowest turnover in housing sales. More people have lived long term on Fox Island than just about anywhere else in Pierce County.
It seems like,
So they mean when you know your
destination there.
neighbor, you really know your neighbor. I mean, they watched your kids grow up. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Well, and that was
I
one
love
of the,
Fox Island.
that's one of the things when I bought my house, I realized that I'm going to be in this neighborhood. Hopefully, knock on wood and all of that, that I'll be there for, years, decades to come. And so even if it's just the renters, I want to know the renters, because then I'll hopefully eventually be able to meet the homeowners. And then as you go around, you can meet all of those different people. You get a general layout of just everybody in that neighborhood. And I think that's what you need to do at this point.
It makes you feel safer.
It does. Because you just, even if it's just talking to them from the front lawn once in a while,
Sure.
it helps out a lot. And I don't think that nowadays people necessarily even want to do that. As a renter, especially across the street from Crazy Nasty Lady. Oh, well, I had a lady that I was living across from. But it's like one of those things where you don't generally think that, okay, well, I don't want to ever talk to anybody because one person might be a little bit, well, she was really off, but.
Yeah, I wouldn't have talked to her, and I used to live there too.
Well, we know social capital and social connectedness is actually good for your health.
Really?
It is actually. There's data that shows that. So if you have connectedness in your community, you will have a generally better health. But I want to take it back to kind of your question and up a notch too. It's knowing your neighbors is first and foremost. But what we've done some research in Pierce County Neighborhood Emergency Team, so that PCNet, and some of the other work we've done, we've found that people go, oh, I'm good, I'm going to go to the church, or I'm going to go to the community center. But what they don't know is that church and the community center doesn't know that 150 people are about to show up.
Oh, yeah.
So personal preparedness, but then knowing your neighborhood is another piece of that layer that we're working on right now. Is so if people say they're going to go to their local church, maybe that's something we need to look at is, should we be working with the churches or working with the community centers?
Every building has got an exit plan. Why doesn't your neighborhood?
Right.
Right.
Oh, I
That's
never
it.
thought about that.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yep.
But
Yep.
the other thing is, in the event of an emergency, the word is, you've got days,
Days.
maybe
Many days.
maybe a week or so
Weeks.
before somebody's
Yes.
going to help you. So if you
Yeah.
get your neighbors, get them in CERT, they'll know how to help you.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
this last go round of this big snow that we had in my neighborhood, that was a great example. I mean, they actually set up an emergency line, and I thought it was great. I just wanted to know when they were going to come. I have a sports car. I can't get out of my house. I've been in my house for 7 days. I'm like, when's the plow coming? I've seen the plow. I had to walk to work.
Maybe you need to think about that. You need something besides a sports car.
Problem is, I only needed it one time in 10 years. So, but I called the emergency hotline they set up, and the lady, first off, was about as pleasant a human being as I've ever spoken to, and I know that she's been getting angry phone calls for days. But they have so many other things. Like, okay, tell us about, and they treated me like I could have a serious situation. I'm like, no, I'm just an asshole in my house that really just wants to leave. But I mean, they're like, okay, do you need medication? Is your medication expired, or are you? Do you need to get to? Do you need emergency medical attention? We can help you get that. Do you just need to make it to your doctor's appointment? Do you need to do all these things all over a little bit of snow? I thought to myself, that's a pretty damn cool thing.
Yeah.
And those are all volunteers.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
We're
So-
working, and we're still in this reorganization. I call it a reorganization with the county, and that's really kind of not a good term to use. Let's say restructuring or under the new procedure. We're still working that out, and instantly our Pierce County Department of Emergency Management had a good system, and they worked. And we were in communication with them as Citizens Corps just to make sure everything was flowing good, and it was like, okay, yeah, we're doing fine. If we need you, we'll call you. But meanwhile, we're doing the kind of stuff we should be. We're getting all our stuff, making sure everybody is all ready to go in case they call us.
Nice.
And that's, when I want to back up a minute, because this falls right into what you guys are talking about in your community. Don't just get to know your neighbor. Get active in your church or in your whatever club, whatever.
One of the things I've been doing is going to the monthly neighborhood meetings. And then also with the east side, they have the Enact. So I've been going to those as well. And like for the neighborhood meetings, we have a very small group of people, maybe 6 to 8 people will show up once a week. And then anybody who wants to complain about the drones in the park, they'll show up once a month, once a year or so. But then I was really surprised at how many people showed up at the Enact meetings. Like we've got people from fire, public schools, police, medical, anything else going on, council members.
What's the Enact meetings?
It's the East Side Neighborhood Alliance something Tacoma.
Advisory Council.
Yeah, that is it. It wasn't even
'Cause I've
close
been
at all. Yeah, so I went to
good.
my first one, and it was kind of an eye-opening experience, and because they're very structured, and they're looking at all parts of the community. And if you're not a part of a church, or if you're not a part of any other organization, which I'm not of, it was a good way to meet other people in your community, not just the ones that are running it, the board members and the people who are in the medical, but also just your neighbors in general. And also at the same point, seeing the Safe Streets people as well. I met we had a couple that come to those as well. And so when you're involved with the Safe Streets, they're doing their own thing, but they've got a limited amount of personnel as well. So just getting to know those people, you're going to end up knowing a lot of people from all aspects of the Citizen Core Council.
All right, we still didn't quite get there. What can the community do to support you guys?
So
Yeah,
we're
go for it.
nonprofit, both.
Okay.
Citizen Core is nonprofit, and so is MRC, and neither get an income. No one gets money. That stopped.
It's like a podcast.
Yeah, years ago.
Yeah, and
Have you guys thought about Patreon?
And so one of the things we've done on our website, I should say the Citizens Core website, is we've got a place there where you can make donations, and some of those donations go for our CERT programs, which quite frankly take up a lot because not everybody can afford a CERT kit. And then we've got the trainers. So that's why we support all that, as well as, I'm not sure what the county is doing anymore. County used to do that.
But it's 100% volunteer.
Yep.
Both are 100% volunteer. And I would recommend that in your heart, if you know you would volunteer in the event of any disaster, if you believe you would do that, you need to sign up. You need to sign up. You need to get an emergency worker card, because if there's an event and you want to come, you think people are going to come en masse, we can't take you. We can't verify.
Yep.
Yeah.
We don't
We've
know
got to
who
have
you
that
are.
worker's card.
You need your worker's card. You need some connectivity. You need to know what to do. If it's a mass immunization, you get just-in-time training, and then
Yeah, no, I mean, it goes, we'll do all the just-in-time training, but at least you'll be in the mix. So especially for medical providers, and this goes to general volunteers too, we already do the pre-vetting. So as a community member, you're going to actually get all of that done, and you'll get liability and L&I insurance coverage when you volunteer.
Oh, wow, okay.
So the Good Samaritan law gets you so far, we take you the next mile.
Nice.
And so that
is a fear, because you don't realize it's like you go to like an accident, or you see an accident happen, and then the fear was like, oh, I'm going to help this person, and then maybe or maybe not you did something to worsen the situation because you're not properly trained,
Or
and
it was
all those.
perceived that you
Exactly.
did that.
Exactly.
And that's one of those things where the Good Samaritan laws will protect you, but even with the vetting that you guys have, it'll go even further. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all under the concept of what the emergency is, and if we activate volunteers and all those things, that coverage goes into play. But especially for liability, that's a thing.
So there's definitely an opportunity for donation.
Yes.
Is there fundraising opportunities? Like, do you guys do anything that might be able to be like a fundraiser, like a zombie apocalypse training course. Where people would come in.
We haven't explored that yet, but who
Asteroids
knows? You know, that,
Well,
that might
We'd
be
make a lot of money
appropriate.
for them doing that.
I know that's you
Gotta
guys
get
might want to
Kozar
look.
up.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea on that.
I know.
I know.
I'm on fire today.
One of the
Smoked Cheez-Its and everything.
Oh yeah. Brogan. Just a small aside. Brogan, you managed to bring in some amazing Grit City grub here, dude.
Yeah. I smoked some white cherry Cheez-Its. If anybody else would like some.
I know Stephanie had some. How'd you think
I
of those?
did. They were really good. Not what I expected.
I know, right? Yeah, the baked Cheez-Its. You're the man.
I know. They just like them.
Yeah, so
Because people love it when we eat on podcasts.
One point I want to bring up, you know, you can register with Citizens Corps. Mm-hmm. You can just be anything.
Yeah.
You can register with us, especially if you're an organization.
Oh yeah, that's a good point
Like-
because you do
like-
have organizational partnerships and such.
Yes, like churches or anything that provides a shelter, food, clothing. Maybe we've got, let's take an example of, let's say, some flooding or a tornado hits or whatever, and you've got let's say, a handicapped person, and they've got a ramp that needs to be rebuilt or something. You know, access. Maybe they just need transportation. You know, and if you're a part of an organization like the 4x4s, okay.
Wait, the 4x4s? I'm not familiar with the 4x4s.
Four-wheel drive vehicles.
Yeah.
Ones that would
The
have
off-roaders.
they would have come and got you for your
Yeah,
medical
they actually
appointment.
have associations.
That's a good point.
And I forget the exact name of the one here, but I think it's the 4x4 something.
Okay, yeah. Nice.
But if you're that kind of an organization, you're just a group, maybe you're another group, and yeah, hey, we're a group of 4x4s. Nobody knows we exist. Hey, become a member.
Oh, that's a good
Doesn't
point.
cost anything. And because they needed those, they were getting tapped out on our last event.
Right.
Yeah, you got a bunch of kids. They're hungry. You were not prepared for the snow.
Well, mainly it was transportation. There was a priority list, and most important were first responders. Mm-hmm. Getting them in and out because they needed transportation. Some of them needed transportation.
That's even a step more serious than I thought.
So there's that. And if you're doing anything to help support in a disaster, you should be a member of us so that we know about you.
You can be have a point of contact at that point.
We are coordinating those resources, and we can't coordinate if we don't know. Now, we've been doing this a while, so usually we know everything that's going on out there, but not always, and we don't always have the correct information. And then, of course, if you want to join Medical Corps, which is excellent, too, like they're saying, you don't have to be a medical qualified person. You also need to register with them.
So each one of those should be done separately, or like any part of organization. So the MRC and
ideally best coverage. Yes, definitely.
Oh, perfect, awesome.
Oh, I'm just my brain is ablaze over here with great ideas.
I know. Look
I'm in
at you,
full
dude.
fundraising mode, man. I'm making like little first aid kits, and we're just gonna
smoking there. I'm not sure that
we're gonna make some zombie apocalypse looking first aid kits, and we're gonna sell them for donation, and we're gonna give them the money, and it's gonna be so great.
I love this.
This all in my head.
Well, and if you guys have ideas, or if you just want to donate either your time or money volunteering or give donations, please do check out CCC-PC.org for the Citizen Corps Council of Pierce County. Also for the MRC, the PierceCountyMRC.org. All the information is going to be there. Also straight up on this podcast or at gritcitypodcast.com. We will have all of the links, and we'll have all of you guys on there. Melinda, Stephanie, Marv, seriously, guys, thank you so much for being a part of the Grit City podcast today.
Oh, thank you for having us here today.
Our pleasure.
If you guys have any more strange guests or some fun stuff that you guys want to have us talk to, you can do so just by sending us an email, info@gritcitypodcast.com. Shoot us Facebook messages and subscribe to our Patreon, because if you go to patreon.com/gritcitypodcast and you are a person who donates and patrons that, we have an archive of all of our old episodes. We've got T-shirts available, hoodies done by the awesome Shroom Brothers. Check them out for all sorts of crazy art along those lines as well. Brogan, you look like you're thinking about something.
I am. You should tell them about the Patreon while I figure this out.
I will continue to talk about the Patreon. You can do the $4 version, which is basically just like a buck an episode.
Yeah.
You can do the $50 business one, much like our bacon savior Jason, who we talked about. And because if it does come up, we'll talk.
Yeah, that's the easiest and cheapest way to get an ad, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because we
All
talk
right.
all about that. You good?
Go, bro.
I think so. You
All
know
right,
what I
then.
just found out?
No, what did
and
you
I
just
was
find
really
out?
hoping it'd have a way better name. Scott suffers from meteorophobia.
Meteorophobia.
Yeah, you have the fear of meteors.
No, I'm not scared of them.
No, yeah, you are.
I just
Scott has meteorophobia.
I just think it's
Meteorophobia.
something we should look out for.
It's actually
That's
a whole. I was really hoping it had like a really weird phobia name, but it doesn't.
Nope.
Well, there's plenty of things that are beyond just meteors that might actually happen, like volcanoes or earthquakes
They
or
are going to
zombies.
happen, dude.
or zombies.
Jesus.
You guys, thank you so much for listening, and
Look at him, he's mad.
we're out of here.
All right, goodbye.